Hello, DFC, and welcome back to another lesson in Grade 9 English. Today, we're going to be looking at an additional storytelling element, and it is the one of perspective. So our learning goal today is we're going to learn how to identify and use perspective as a storytelling element in fiction. But before we get to that, I just want you to do 15 to 20 minutes of grammar activity on quill.org. So remember, this is our join code, Ocean Grain, and just work on whatever skills you want to develop. Task 2 is just simply watching this video. Task 3 is I'm going to give you a lesson on perspective, which is also called point of view. So perspective or point of view is simply how a story is told. Stories are told by characters called narrators, and it's typically done in one of three ways or persons. And you can tell which person or perspective it's in by what kind of pronouns are used. So for those who are unfamiliar with these terms, I've given you definitions here, but there are three types of persons or perspectives. First, second, or third. And these are the types of pronouns that they typically use in the story. So there are two very most common ones. As first person, that's when the narrator is one of the characters in the story, and the story is told from his or her perspective. And you can tell because in the story, words like I and me are used outside of quotations. In quotations, any one of these perspectives can use those pronouns. But if, say, I am telling the story and I'm a character in that story, this would be first person perspective. Second person perspective is not common in fiction. It's when the narrator is directly speaking to the reader, usually with pronouns like you. Things that are in second person perspective are instruction manuals and cookbooks, because they are talking and speaking directly to the reader, giving them instructions on what to do. Another very common one, and this is the perspective of today's story, is third person, where the narrator is not a character in the story, but an outsider perspective that can see and know everything. So they use words like he, she, they, and it. So we're going to take our lesson on perspective and apply it to today's story, which can be found here. I'm going to insert the link there later. But it's called The Serpent's Egg by Gilbert Oscabos. Now, based on that title alone, this is the First Nations author. I want you to predict what The Serpent's Egg will be about. So you don't have to write down this prediction. Just think in your head, what will this story be about? It's called The Serpent's Egg, and it's by a First Nations author. So just make that prediction now. I think it'll be about blank, blank, blank. Don't tell me about it yet. So after making your prediction, I then want you to read the rest of the story, and then afterward, answer the following questions. So the story will be found at this link when I add the link. Now here are the questions. After reading the story, compare how close your prediction was to the rest of the story. Were there any parts of the story that you did not expect to happen? So it's out of 2 marks, so you get 1 mark for answering this question and another mark for answering this one. Now, number 2, a metaphor is a common literary device in which something is being compared to something else. For example, a rat is used as a metaphor for a snitch when describing a person rather than an actual rat. So I want you to find out what these 3 things mean in the story. The others. Who are these other people? I've given you guys page numbers as to where you can find information about the others, the serpent's eggs, and the serpent's breath. So try to figure out what these really mean and write down the clues in this column here. So who are the others? What type of people are the others? And once you read the story, hopefully you'll have more of an idea. And just write down a sentence or the quote that gave you the clue. For example, let's look in the story. For the others, they were a new race of humans that moved into the territory. Strange people with pale faces, cold, icy eyes, and hair the color of dry grass. Now, because I'm Canadian, my spell check doesn't recognize that spelling. So this is a clue. It's a race of people that are new to First Nations people who moved in. They're strange, they have pale faces, cold, icy eyes, and color the hair of dry grass. So that'd be like a yellowish blonde. So what people have? Pale faces, blue eyes, and blonde hair. Well, that sounds like white people, right? And in the story, that's who the others are. They are the white people. So just tell me who these others are and what clues you used. Number 3, I want you to tell me what you think the theme of the story is. I believe the main message the author is trying to tell his or her audience is blank, blank, blank. So tell me what you think the theme of the story is. Remember, theme is the lesson, not the plot. So what is the author trying to teach his audience about the story, in the story? Now, in your opinion, does this story effectively demonstrate its theme to the reader? Does it do a good job at teaching the reader the theme? Number 5, and you get 2 marks for that. So I think the story does or doesn't effectively teach its reader about the theme. You get a mark for that. And then because, give an answer. So that's how you can get 2 marks out of 1 question. So state your answer and because, and then give your reason. From what perspective, either first, second, or third, is this story being told from? Please pay special attention to the pronouns being used. And I've already given you guys a hint as to what perspective it is. And also be sure to explain your choice. So you get 1 from telling me the perspective, another mark for explaining your choice. Number 6, imagine that the serpent is the story's narrator. So imagine that the story is not being told in third person, but by the first person. So rewrite the following sentence so that it is in first person perspective. So take the names and the pronouns and turn them into first person perspective as if the serpent was telling the story. I'll show you how to do that. As I, so not she, but I, move ponderously south, I searched with a growing sense of urgency, for I was ripe with new life, and my time was near. So I kind of did it for you guys. That's a bonus for watching this video. But you can see how I switched it. It's the same story, but now the serpent is the narrator versus the original story where there's an outside spectator who is narrating it. So take this sentence and put it into third person perspective. Last but not least, I'd like you guys to do some research. So this story is about kind of the dangers of nuclear weapons and radiation poisoning. So I want you to do some research on your own as to what are the symptoms or side effects, they're the same word, of being exposed to radiation. So I want you to essentially Google this phrase, symptoms of radiation poisoning. And once you find your website, so I'll take that phrase, I'll press that. Radiation sickness. We got a bunch of symptoms here. So here we have some symptoms of radiation sickness. This is a website all about radiation sickness. You can get it from being exposed to sources of nuclear energy, like X-rays, nuclear power plants, or nuclear bombs. You're probably not going to encounter those in your daily life, but being exposed to those sources of radiation can cause all sorts of terrible, terrible symptoms, including death. So I'd like you to tell me what are some common effects or symptoms of radiation poisoning, the title of the website you got your information from. So the title you can find at the top. This is literally called Radiation Sickness. Let's Control-Shift-V. Link or URL used. Your link is here at the top. You can just right-click, copy, or Control-C. Date you access it, so just give today's date. And then you'd write your symptoms down here. So you're just doing a little bit of research to find out what's so harmful about radiation. Because that is very important to understanding today's story is, why is radiation so bad? Why are nuclear weapons so bad? Well, this story will teach you about that. All right, so here's today's marking scheme. There's 25 marks in total. 21 marks for the questions, another 4 marks for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And if you have any questions, I'm available every afternoon on Google Meet. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys again. Have a good day. Bye.